Hey everybody, this is Tommy Hausman, and I want to welcome you to Really Robots. So this is going to be a show where I try to spread information about what's going on in the world with a new twist. I will be using several different forms of AI across the board: Google, ChatGPT, Adobe, the whole gamut, to try and bring you some entertaining content that at the same time informs you about what's going on in the world. So it looks like we are well on our way to having 200,000 robots in the workforce within the next 2 years. And that's just the start. And I might be underestimating. You'd think that maybe I'm overestimating, but I don't think that I am. I think I might be underestimating, but we're going to find out in this series of podcasts and stories that are generated. So I hope you enjoy and come back for more.
All right, so get this, right? Humanoid robots, like the real deal, not just sci-fi anymore.
Yeah, it's wild, actually, how fast things are changing.
We're talking a mountain of articles, videos, company profiles, the whole shebang. And the future is, like, happening right now.
It really is. For the longest time, it felt like humanoid robots were always just out of reach, stuck in research labs.
Yeah.
But now you've got AI making these huge leaps, and the robotics, the engineering, it's all catching up.
It's like it's all finally clicking into place.
Exactly.
And what really blew me away, honestly, was the sheer number of companies going all in on this.
It's not just a few players anymore, it's everyone.
Yeah, it's not just the big tech names either.
Right. You've got this whole wave of startups jumping in, all wanting a piece of the action.
And they're not just building, like, factory robots anymore. We're talking robots designed to live in our homes. Like, can you even imagine?
It's a huge shift. For decades, industrial robots, they had a very specific purpose.
Right. Very controlled environments.
Exactly. Think assembly lines, welding, things like that.
Yeah, those massive arms you always see in car factories.
But now, the goal is totally different. Now, it's about robots that can navigate our world, the unpredictable chaos of it all.
Your living room, your messy kitchen.
Maybe even that pile of laundry you've been ignoring.
Okay, you got me.
The point is, it's a whole new ballgame.
All right, enough teasing. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
One company, 1X Technologies, they're claiming they'll have their robot, NEO, in homes next year.
Next year, that's what they're saying.
Not in 5 years, not in 10 years, next year.
Ambitious, for sure.
They're already doing real-world testing, like in people's homes.
Yeah, I saw a video. Pretty mind-blowing stuff.
I mean, it's a little unnerving, right? Just how naturally NEO interacts with people.
It's getting very real, very quickly.
NEO's design is interesting, too.
Yeah, they really focused on making it, like, approachable.
Not some big clunky machine.
Right. It's compact, lightweight, something that wouldn't look out of place in a modern apartment.
So, what, it's going to be making you coffee in the morning?
Well, maybe not coffee yet, but the idea is that it can help with those everyday tasks, carrying groceries, maybe even tidying up.
Okay, that I can get behind.
Right.
I did wonder about the cost, though.
Yeah, that's always the question, isn't it?
They compared it to a relatively affordable car.
So, not exactly pocket change.
Not something you're picking up on a whim, that's for sure.
Exactly, and that's the big challenge, right? Building these things is incredibly complex and expensive.
So how do you make them affordable? How do you scale production?
Well, that's where companies like Agility Robotics are trying to crack the code.
They're the ones behind the Digit robot, right?
Yeah, that's them. And they're taking this whole mass production thing seriously.
How so?
They've built a dedicated factory, RoboFab, in Oregon.
Okay.
And get this, their goal is to pump out 10,000 robots a year.
10,000.
Yeah, seriously.
That's the plan.
That's a crazy number.
It is. It really shows how committed they are to making these robots mainstream.
But realistically, can they actually pull that off?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, how long until this is like a normal thing, something you see every day, not just in like tech demos?
Well, there are some interesting predictions out there.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Omdia, they're a market research firm. They predict that by 2027, Global shipments of humanoid robots will be over 10,000 units annually.
Wow, so like right around the corner.
And it gets wilder. By 2030, they're forecasting 38,000 units per year.
That's a massive jump.
We're talking a compound annual growth rate of 83%.
So this isn't just some niche thing anymore.
Not even close.
It really makes you think about the impact this is going to have, especially for industries that are struggling to find workers.
Absolutely. All those reports about labor shortages.
Like, could robots actually be the answer?
It's a real possibility.
I remember all those stories about Amazon having trouble filling warehouse jobs.
And it's not just Amazon, it's happening everywhere.
So are robots going to be running the warehouses of the future?
They might be, and it's already starting to happen.
Really?
Agility Robotics, they're not wasting any time. They're already partnering with companies like GXO Logistics,
What are they doing?
putting Digit to work in warehouses right now.
Wow, so it's already happening.
It is.
What are they using Digit for?
Those really repetitive tasks, the ones that are physically demanding, tough on workers.
Yeah, the jobs that are essential, but maybe not, like, ideal for humans in the long run.
Exactly. But it's not just about replacing those physically demanding jobs. There's this whole other side to it.
Oh, what's that?
The semantic intelligence of these robots.
Semantic intelligence. Okay, break that down for me.
Basically, it's about building robots that don't just follow instructions, but actually understand what those instructions mean.
So, like, they can think for themselves.
In a way, yeah, they can adapt to new situations, learn on the fly, even solve problems they haven't encountered before.
And that's where AI comes in, right?
Huge role, yeah. As AI gets more advanced, so too does the potential for these robots to take on even more complex tasks.
So it's not just about replacing brawn anymore, it's about brain power, too.
It's starting to look that way, which of course raises a whole other set of questions.
Like, what happens to the workforce if robots can do it all?
That's the big one, isn't it? And it's something we can't shy away from.
It's like something out of a science fiction novel, except it's actually happening.
I know, right? It's both exciting and a little terrifying.
Right, totally. It feels like we're on the edge of something huge.
We are. We're witnessing a technological revolution in real time. And companies like Agility Robotics, Tesla, Boston Dynamics, they're the ones leading the charge.
They're the ones writing the next chapter.
Exactly. And it's a chapter that's still being written, which makes it all the more fascinating and maybe a little bit scary, too.
No kidding. So we've established that humanoid robots are on the rise. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are these companies actually building? Let's start with Agility Robotics and their RoboFab factory. What's going on in there?
So inside RoboFab, Agility Robotics is basically building a humanoid robot army.
Okay, dramatic, but I get your point.
Well, think about it. Their whole goal is to scale up production of Digit.
Right, their flagship robot, the one designed for all those industrial settings.
Exactly. Warehouses, factories, the whole 9 yards.
But it's not just about, like, building a few robots here and there. It's the sheer volume they're aiming for.
Oh, yeah. We're talking thousands of digits in just the next year, and then it ramps up tens of thousands the year after.
Tens of thousands of robots walking around warehouses doing who knows what.
Moving boxes, stacking shelves, you name it.
I mean, if they achieve even half of that, it's going to be a very different landscape.
Oh, absolutely. The labor market would never be the same.
And it gets even crazier, right? We're digging into the research from ARK Invest.
Yeah, they're always on top of these big technological shifts.
And their projections are, well, pretty mind-blowing.
To say the least.
They actually believe that if humanoid robots like Digit, if they really take off, if we see widespread adoption, we could be talking about a $24 trillion boost to the global economy.
That's their number? $24 trillion.
24 trillion. I mean, come on, that's like winning the lottery every day for a year.
It's an almost unfathomable amount of money.
Okay, so I got to ask, what's the logic there? How do they even begin to calculate something like that?
So ARK Invest, they're all about disruptive technologies.
Right, they're always looking for the next big thing.
And they see humanoid robots as potentially even more transformative than the internet.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
No kidding, but their whole analysis hinges on this idea of increased productivity.
Okay, so robots do more work faster, cheaper?
Essentially, yes. And the biggest impact, they argue, would be in the manufacturing sector.
Which makes sense. That's where a lot of these robots would be put to work.
Exactly. And manufacturing is the backbone of so many economies around the world.
So more efficient manufacturing means a bigger boost to the overall economy.
That's the theory, anyway.
But how do they get from, like, robots in factories to a $24 trillion increase. That seems like a huge leap.
So their argument is that robots, they don't have the same limitations as humans.
Meaning?
Robots, they don't need sleep, they don't take breaks, they don't need vacations.
I guess I had thought about it like that.
And they definitely don't get tired or make mistakes because they're exhausted.
Which, let's be honest, we humans do all the time.
It's in our nature.
Right. So what they're envisioning is like a factory that runs 24/7, no downtime.
Maximum efficiency all the time.
That's a pretty radical shift.
It is. And you can't talk about this kind of automation without addressing the big question.
What happens to all the human workers?
Exactly. It's the elephant in the room.
I mean, if robots are doing all the jobs, what are people supposed to do?
It's a critical question and one that we need to seriously consider.
So what are the potential solutions?
Well, ARK Invest, they argue that the initial impact will likely be felt most strongly in large corporations.
The ones that already have a lot of automation.
Right, especially in roles that are highly specialized, easily standardized.
So if a robot can be programmed to do your job might be on the line.
It's a harsh reality, but it's something we need to be prepared for.
What about smaller companies?
They might have a bit more breathing room, at least for now.
Why is that?
Smaller companies, employees often wear multiple hats.
Right, you have to be more adaptable, more flexible.
Exactly, and those are the skills that are harder to automate.
At least for the time being.
Right, a robot might be able to tighten bolts on an assembly line, but it's not going to be able to run a small business.
Or at least not yet.
And that's the key, isn't it? That adaptability, that ability to think on your feet, that's what's traditionally set us apart.
Those uniquely human skills.
Exactly. But if robots start developing those capabilities through things like semantic intelligence, then it becomes a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so then what? What happens if robots can learn, adapt, problem solve, all the things we thought were uniquely human?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It challenges our whole definition of work, of what it means to be human in a world where robots are increasingly capable.
We might need to rethink our entire economic system.
It's possible. Some experts are already talking about things like universal basic income.
A world where robots do all the work and humans just like chill out.
It's a radical idea, for sure, and one that comes with its own set of challenges.
We could probably do a whole other deep dive just on that.
Absolutely. But for now, let's bring it back to the companies at the forefront of this revolution.
Okay, good idea. We've talked a lot about Agility Robotics and Digit, but they're not the only ones in the game.
Not even close. We've got Tesla with their highly anticipated Optimus robot.
Yeah, every time Elon Musk talks about Optimus, it seems like the whole world listens.
He's a master of building hype, that's for sure.
He's even said that Optimus could eventually be bigger than Tesla's entire car business.
Which is a pretty bold statement, considering how well Tesla's doing.
So what do you think? Is Optimus the real deal, or is it all hype?
It's hard to say for sure. Tesla's definitely got a knack for disrupting industries.
Their track record with electric vehicles speaks for itself.
Exactly, but robotics, it's a different beast altogether.
How so?
It's one thing to build a sleek electric car. It's another thing entirely to build a robot that can, like, walk and talk and make decisions.
That's fair.
And Optimus, it's still largely under wraps.
Yeah, they've done a few public demonstrations.
Well, mass production, that seems like a long way off.
So maybe not something we'll be seeing in our homes anytime soon.
Probably not, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, so we've got Agility Robotics with Digit. Kind of like the workhorse.
The reliable one, out there in the field, getting things done.
And then there's Tesla with Optimus, the flashy sports car of the robot world.
All potential, not quite a reality yet.
But we can't forget about the companies that are pushing the boundaries of what these robots can do.
Right. Companies like Boston Dynamics.
They're like the rock stars of the robotics world.
With their Atlas robot.
I mean, have you seen the videos of that thing? It's mind-blowing.
Parkour, backflips, it's like something out of a movie.
It's insane what they've been able to achieve.
But it's important to remember, Atlas is primarily a research platform.
Right.
It's not really designed for commercial use.
So we won't be seeing Atlas serving us coffee anytime soon.
Probably not. It's incredibly complex, incredibly expensive to produce.
Not exactly something you can just mass produce.
Not yet, anyway.
But even though Atlas itself might not be commercially viable, the work that Boston Dynamics is doing, that's what's really important.
Absolutely. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's like the difference between Formula One racing and building a family sedan.
I like that analogy.
One is all about pushing the limits, the bleeding edge of technology.
And the other is about practicality, affordability.
But even with those differences, there's a connection.
Of course, the innovations we see in Formula One, they often trickle down to the cars we drive every day.
Exactly, and it's the same with robotics.
The breakthroughs that Boston Dynamics is making, those advancements in agility, balance, dynamic movement, that's all going to influence the next generation of robots.
Whether they're working in warehouses, hospitals, or even our homes.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The rise of humanoid robots, the companies building them, the economic implications, even the potential impact on the workforce.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I want to touch on something that I think gets to the heart of why this topic is so fascinating.
Oh, what's that?
This isn't just about technology, it's about us.
Us.
Yeah, it's about what it means to be human.
Okay. I like where you're going with this.
In a world where robots are becoming increasingly sophisticated, increasingly capable.
And let's be honest, increasingly human-like.
Exactly. It makes you question what makes us different.
It's a question philosophers have been grappling with for centuries.
And now it's not just a philosophical question, it's a real-world question.
Absolutely. As these robots become more advanced, those lines between man and machine, they start to blur.
So where do we draw the line? What does it even mean to be human in the age of intelligent machines?
It's a question we'll need to answer together.
And it's a question that leads us to a company that's taking a slightly different approach to humanoid robots, one that's particularly relevant to this whole discussion about the evolving relationship between humans and machines.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my interest. Tell me more.
Okay, so this company, the one taking a different approach, you were about to tell us about them.
Right, Figure. They're doing some really interesting things.
Okay, what's their deal? What makes them stand out?
Well, for starters, they're not just building a humanoid robot. They're building what they call the world's first commercially viable autonomous humanoid robot.
Autonomous, that's the key word there, isn't it?
Exactly, and their robot, it's called Figure 02.
Figure 02, okay.
And what they're doing differently is really all about the AI. They're integrating artificial intelligence on a whole other level.
Okay, so most of the companies we've talked about, they're focused on specific applications, right? Like warehouse work, industrial automation, that kind of thing.
Right, very past-oriented.
But Figure, they're going for something more general purpose.
Exactly. They want to build a robot that can learn and adapt to all sorts of tasks, not just the ones it's pre-programmed to do.
So less like a specialized tool, more like a Swiss Army knife.
Perfect analogy. They want to create a robot that can do it all.
Which is a pretty ambitious goal, to say the least.
It is, but they've got a really interesting approach.
Okay, I'm all ears.
They're not limiting themselves to pre-programmed routines. They're using all this cutting-edge AI stuff, things like reinforcement learning, to create a robot that can basically think for itself.
Think for itself. Okay, now you're really starting to sound like a sci-fi movie.
I know, right? But that's the direction things are heading.
So what does that actually mean in practical terms? What can this robot Figure 02, what can it actually do?
Well, on a basic level, it's designed to navigate our world.
Meaning?
It can walk, it can climb stairs, it can manipulate objects, all the things we've seen from other humanoid robots.
Okay, so far so good. But where's the groundbreaking part? What sets it apart from, say, Digit or Optimus?
It's the emphasis on autonomy and general-purpose capabilities. Digit, for example, it's amazing in a warehouse, but it's not going to suddenly learn how to, like, make you a cappuccino.
Okay, good point.
Figure 02, on the other hand, that's the kind of adaptability they're aiming for. They're using AI to train it on all sorts of tasks.
From basic stuff to, like, really complex problem solving.
Exactly. They're giving it the tools to learn and grow to become more capable over time.
So it's like the more it learns, the more valuable it becomes.
Exactly. And that's a huge part of their business model.
And they've got the team to pull this off.
Oh, yeah. They've assembled a serious team, leading robotics engineers, AI researchers, the best of the best.
So they're not just relying on, like, off-the-shelf technology. They're building this stuff from the ground up.
That's right. They're developing their own hardware, their own software, constantly iterating, constantly pushing the limits.
It's clear that Figure is a serious player in this whole humanoid robot race. But they're not the only ones pushing the boundaries, are they? I mean, we'd be remiss not to mention China. They're doing some incredible things in the robotics field.
Absolutely. China's investing heavily in robotics and AI.
And they're not just playing catch-up. They're innovating.
Right. Companies like Unitary Robotics, UB Tech, Cloudminds, they're all developing some really sophisticated robots.
And they're often doing it with a focus on affordability and scalability, which is
Right.
something that's been a challenge for other companies.
Absolutely. They're really trying to bring these robots to the masses.
It really does feel like a global effort, doesn't it? All these different countries, different companies, all contributing to this incredible technological revolution.
It's an exciting time to be following this field, that's for sure.
Exciting and maybe a little bit overwhelming. There's so much happening so fast.
It's a lot to take in, but one thing's for sure, humanoid robots, they're here to stay.
There's no going back now.
And as these robots become more a part of our lives, as they get more sophisticated, more capable, it's going to raise some really big questions.
About what it means to be human, about the future of work, about our relationship with technology.
Those are the questions we'll need to grapple with as a society.
And there are no easy answers.
Definitely not. But the first step is asking the right questions, having those difficult conversations.
And that's what we've tried to do today on the Deep Dive.
We've explored the companies, the technologies, the potential benefits, the challenges, the whole shebang.
It's a complex topic, one that's constantly evolving.
And I think we've only just scratched the surface.
We have, but hopefully we've given our listeners a good starting point.
A foundation to build on.
Exactly, because this is a conversation that's going to continue whether we're ready for it or not.
The robots are coming, and it's up to us to figure out how we're going to navigate this new reality.
It's about being informed, being engaged, and maybe even being a little bit scared.
A healthy dose of fear never hurt anyone.
That's right. It keeps you on your toes.
So to our listeners, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, keep asking those tough questions.
Because the future is unwritten, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time on The Deep Dive, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.